Arsenal have no excuse this season. For 3 years straight, they've stood on the edge of glory, only to collapse right at the finish line. And every time, the excuses rolled in. No striker, no depth, no killer instinct. This season, things are different. The red side of London has opened its wallet. They've reinforced the defense. They've stacked the midfield. And for the first time since Thierry Henry, Arsenal finally has a striker who terrifies defenders across Europe. So the question isn't, can Arsenal win? It's, will they finally do it, or will they choke again? For 3 straight seasons, Arsenal's collapse has felt scripted. Dominate the autumn, blitz teams in the winter, stand top in March, and then, as the finish line comes into view, it all unravels. 10 games to go. The same cruel story repeats itself. Second place, again. It's why rival fans christened them Number 2 FC, a mocking nickname that stuck because Arsenal were always good enough to dream, but never ruthless enough to finish. And yet, if you actually look deeper, the reasons weren't a mystery. Every spring, the squad fell apart under the weight of injuries. William Saliba's back injury ended a title charge in 2023. Key midfielders disappeared at the worst possible moments. Arteta had built a strong 11 to match anyone in Europe, but when the players went down, the replacements weren't good enough. The bench was thin, the drop in quality obvious. But there was the other problem, the one Arsenal fans whispered about even when they were winning. They played beautiful football, created chances, controlled matches, but there was no killer. No Drogba-like profile, no Haaland, no striker who could turn half chances into goals, who could carry them when the legs got heavy and the pressure became unbearable. Last season summed it up perfectly. Arsenal went toe-to-toe with Europe's giants, but when the margin shrank, when they needed a ruthless finisher to turn 1 point into 3, they had no answer. That's why this summer isn't about tweaks. It was about transformation. Arteta and the new sporting director, Andrea Berta, tore into the transfer market with intent. Piece by piece, they built depth in every position. Suddenly, Arsenal doesn't look just like a good team. They actually look serious this season. So I think it is finally time to say they have no excuses again. Because their entire transformation starts with the man brought in to solve Arsenal's oldest problem, the masked monster from Sporting Lisbon, Viktor Gyökeres. For years, Arsenal created chances, dominated possession, and played beautiful football, but without a true predator to finish them off. It always fell apart. That's why this summer they went all in for the Swedish striker who tore Portugal apart with 54 goals in 52 matches last season, including a Champions League hat-trick against Manchester City. Nearly 97 goals in just 2 years at Sporting Lisbon. That striker, Viktor Gyökeres. But Arsenal didn't sign him for the numbers alone. Gyökeres pressed like a wolf, crashes through defenders, thrives in chaos. He's the kind of striker Arsenal has lacked since Thierry Henry, a predator who doesn't just finish chances, but creates fear in defenders. For the first time in 2 decades, Arsenal finally has a number 9 who can carry them through the storm. Yet strikers are only as deadly as the support behind them, which is why Arsenal didn't stop there. Because for years, Arsenal's attack has been too predictable. Double mark Bukayo Saka, and you cut off 75% of their creativity. It worked because Arsenal had no secondary source of magic. But now, they have Eberechi. Last season, Eze was Crystal Palace's top scorer. 15 goals, 14 assists in all competitions. A glider with the ball at his feet. A creator with angles nobody else can see, and a free kick specialist to rival Odegaard. He isn't just a backup, he's competition. He can play wide, he can play central, and he can take someone's starting spot. Arsenal hasn't added depth, they've added danger. And then there's Nonimadueke, the signing that may prove more crucial than any headline number. Why? Because Saka's body has been breaking under the weight of 5 seasons of carrying Arsenal's right wing, playing every week, every minute, until his legs gave way. 2 years ago, that exact fatigue cost Arsenal in the Champions League. Not anymore. Madueke is direct, fearless, two-footed. He doesn't run from defenders, he hunts them. Which means when Saka rests or misses games, Arsenal doesn't drop their level. Squad depth and old weakness has been patched. But what about the other end of the pitch? For 3 straight seasons, Arsenal's defense has been among the best in the league, yet it all collapsed when one injury happens to a defender. In 2023, William Saliba's injury destroyed their title charge. Last year, the problem was with Gabriel. Arteta has never forgotten it. And his answer this time is Christian Mosquera, still a teenager, already standing tall among Europe's brightest defensive prospects. Madrid wants him, scouts rave about him, but Arsenal got him. Mosquera is a defender who can play center back or right back, strong in duels, but also calm beyond his years, kind of like how Saliba plays. And for the first time, Arsenal's back line has real cover. And if Piero Hincapié joins as well, we might as well just hand them the golden gloves right now. But all that means nothing without the person holding it all together. And in this case, they have that exact profile in Martinzubimendi, the man who has done for Real Sociedad what Thomas Partey once did for Arsenal. Calm in chaos, stability in midfield, control in transition. With Declan Rice stepping higher up the pitch, Zubimendi's job is simple. Shield, intercept, recycle. But don't sleep on his shooting foot either. He has Partey's thunderbolt in his locker. Piece by piece, Arsenal has killed every excuse. No striker, solved. No depth, covered. No rotation, fixed. But even with all these exciting profiles, when you eliminate excuses, you also eliminate safety nets. So it is safe to say that Arsenal aren't plucky challengers anymore. They're a war machine with the sharpest weapons they've had in 20 years. And that means this season isn't about competing. It's about finishing the job. The only question left is whether all these shiny new weapons will actually fit into Arteta's system, or whether history will repeat itself again. You can build a dream squad on paper, but football is about chemistry. Systems, patterns, the little details that make 11 players look like one machine. And that's where Arsenal's evolution this season is already starting to show. Arteta hasn't ripped up the blueprint, he sharpened it. The foundation is still the 4-3-3 that built Arsenal's rise, but the roles inside now feel supercharged. Gyökeres leads the line, not just as a poacher, but as a target who makes the entire attack more fluid. He drops short, pins defenders, and then spins into the channels, a constant magnet for Arsenal's midfield runners. Look at the win against Manchester United earlier this season. For years, Arsenal would dominate possession against United, but struggle to create clean chances. This time, Gyökeres gave them something new. He bullied United's centre-backs, forcing them to drop deeper, which gave Rice and Odegaard the room to dictate higher up. The result? Arsenal suffocated United's midfield and controlled the game throughout the first half. And although the second half was not entirely convincing, there were still signs. Or take the demolition of Leeds, 5-0 at the Emirates. It wasn't just a scoreline, it was the variety. One goal was vintage Arsenal, slick passing, triangles, and a tap-in. Another was chaos, Gyökeres pressing high, forcing a mistake, smashing it in. And then there was the penalty, cold, lethal, unsavable. That's the kind of killer edge Arsenal has lacked for 20 years. But Gyökeres isn't just scoring goals, he's adding personality. Strikers at the top level don't just finish, they intimidate, they taunt, they live rent-free in defenders' heads. Gyökeres has already given us his trademark celebration, adjusting his hair after scoring, like he has all the time in the world. It's cheeky, almost disrespectful, and it tells defenders exactly what he thinks. You can't stop me. Arsenal hasn't had that aura since Thierry Henry. But it's not just him. The new midfield shape with Zubimendi sitting allows Rice to press higher, almost as a box-to-box destroyer, while Eze will become the unpredictable runner between the lines. Suddenly, Arsenal can morph mid-game, from a patient build-up side into a direct counterpuncher. Against low blocks, they overload the half spaces. Against high presses, they launch Gyökeres into races defenders can't win. Even the wings look fresher, with Saka finally sharing the workload with Noni Madueke. Arsenal aren't predictable anymore. Defenders can't just double Saka and kill Arsenal's rhythm. Now they have to guess which weapon Arteta unleashes: the glides of Eze, the raw pace of Martinelli, or the direct chaos of Madueke. This isn't theory, it's already happening. Arsenal doesn't just look like a squad with depth, they look like a team with solutions. Every weakness from last season, striker, depth, and rotation is being tested and, so far, answered. Of course, it's the early days. A few games don't make a season, but the signs are there. Arsenal finally plays with menace, with swagger, and with the personality of champions. And with Gyökeres at the top, they've unlocked something they haven't had since Henry: fear. The question is, will this fear still hold when the pressure arrives? For all the fireworks of August and September, football seasons aren't won there. Arsenal fans know this too well. The ghosts don't come out in autumn, they arrive in April. 10 games to go, when the legs are heavy, when one mistake is fatal, when points slip away not because of tactics but because of nerves. And pressure has always been Arsenal's greatest opponent. Think back to 2 seasons ago. A squad that led the table for months. A squad that outscored almost everyone. And yet, when the title run-in arrived, they tightened up. The football became cautious, and the risk-taking evaporated. They stopped playing like themselves. Manchester City smelled it and struck. Arsenal didn't collapse because they weren't good enough. They collapsed because they couldn't breathe under the weight of expectation. This is what makes the new sightings so fascinating. Gyökeres is more than just goals. He's a statement. His entire personality is built for big moments. At Sporting, he thrived in knockout ties, scored penalties like he was taking a stroll in the park, and celebrated like the stage was his. Strikers like that don't shrink under lights, they demand them, and Arsenal are betting that when the pressure comes, he'll be the one who doesn't flinch. Eberechi brings another layer. Then there's depth. This is where Arsenal have always cracked. When Saliba fell injured in 2023, the backline fell apart. When the midfield tired, they had no cover. This season, Mosquera, Zubimendi, and Madueke bring them a step closer. They mean Arsenal can rotate without dropping quality. And in the final months, that's often the difference between champions and number 2 FC. But here's the twist. When you remove excuses, you also remove safety nets. Last year, the narrative was Arsenal doesn't have a striker, they don't have depth, they aren't ready yet. This year, those excuses are gone. If they fail now, it won't be about resources, it'll be about mentality. That's why this season feels heavier. Arsenal aren't underdogs anymore. They aren't the plucky challengers pushing the champions. They're contenders with a 97-goal striker, Champions League level depth, and a squad built for 4 competitions. And with that comes a different kind of pressure, the pressure of expectation, the kind that doesn't just test your talent, but your nerve. Because this year, if Arsenal chokes again, there'll be no hiding place. Liverpool are the reigning champions. Under Arne Slot, they didn't just replace Klopp's chaos with order, they reinvented themselves. The pressing is cleaner, the rotation sharper, the system tighter. They're not chasing Arsenal. Arsenal are chasing them. Manchester City may have stumbled last season, but Guardiola's machine rarely breaks twice in a row. Wounded champions are often the most dangerous, and City remain the side that Arsenal still haven't truly dethroned. Every clash against them will feel like a test of legitimacy. And then come the wild cards. Chelsea, unpredictable but brimming with talent, capable of brilliance one week and collapse the next. Liverpool, driven by ambition and now strengthened with depth, is hungry to prove they belong at the very top. Even Manchester City, inconsistent as they are, can still spring shocks that derail campaigns. And over all this hangs Europe. Arsenal hasn't built this squad just to chase the Premier League. They expect to go deep in the Champions League too. But history is cruel. English sides chasing both crowns often pay the price. A stumble under the lights of Europe could easily bleed into domestic form. This is the paradox Arsenal faces. They've built the strongest team club we've seen in 2 decades. But they enter a battlefield where every rival is waiting to strike. The question isn't just whether Arsenal are strong enough. It's whether they're strong enough when everyone else refuses to fail. Barcelona had their golden generation. City built their dynasty. Liverpool found their rebirth. Now it's Arsenal's turn. No excuses, no hiding, no next year. This is the season that defines them. Glory or the cruelest choke of all? What do you think? Do let us know in the comments below.